You're listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you, as always, Jeff Chadiha, NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. As we continue to wait, the agonizing wait for Chiefs fans to get to the game, we will talk about the pursuit of a three-peat. Is it becoming a distraction for this team? Where would they rank if they do pull off the three-peat? Is Philadelphia the toughest team the Chiefs will face this season? Can Xavier Worthy continue to be the Chiefs' top receiver against the Eagles? Which Travis Kelce are we going to see? Will DeAndre Hopkins make an impact for this team ever again? The Chiefs' defense gave up nearly 150 yards on the ground. Can they stop this Eagles rushing attack, at least slow it down? And how does Jaylen Watson change this defense? We're talking about it now, right here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the sports columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it. Get with Dave and he'll have you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call, visit them online, or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave. He'll give you peace of mind today for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
That's right, Curtis. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Remember, 10 o'clock on a Friday, we go live. If you want to be part of the stream, part of the conversation, I already got a lot of folks lined up in the chat room, some of our best, and Tommy Moe. So you got the best and Tommy that are here to talk some Chiefs football on a Friday, also Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Jeff, let's dive right in, and let's talk about the three-peat talk. They're getting ready to head down to the smorgasbord of media time that is the Super Bowl. It starts with the big Monday Goof Fest at the stadium. Do they do it at the stadium now, or do they do it at an arena?
The stadium.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't gone to that. I'm proud to say, I believe since a time when the Super Bowl played in a place that it no longer plays. I think San Diego, California, was the last time I went to that. Packers, Broncos.
Lucky man.
I guess, smart man. Thank you, Jeff. Will it be too much? Will it become a distraction for the Chiefs?
I don't see it as a distraction. I do believe the talk about it will intensify in the next, whatever it is, 8 days. Because they've been able to be in a bubble here, and it's come up from time to time, but it hasn't really been at the forefront in the way it's going to be this week. And I've always felt this about this Chiefs dynasty, that this run that they've been on. They've always been better at their best when they've had something to motivate them that was negative. And so, 2 years ago, it was you can't win without Tyreek Hill. Last year, it was you went through all these issues throughout the season, and you found a way to rally and go to all these places and win these road playoff games. Even going back to 2019, people forget that we were still living in a Patriots world. The Patriots started that year, I think, 8 or 10-0, and the Ravens had the best record in football. And so they had to kind of fight through that. I think it's when they had the run it back campaign going, when they saw the Buccaneers, there was a different vibe to them. And so I do wonder how much they will be affected by all the media that's going to come at them. They're pretty strong when it comes to this stuff, but it's different when you don't have a chip on your shoulder and you're the one who's hunted. And I do think that will be a storyline in this game.
Yeah. How about you, Sam? Can it be a distraction for this team, or are there enough veterans on it that they can handle it?
Well, I mean, I think it can be a distraction for any team. I mean, just to give people that haven't been there a sense of this, like it is a circus for these guys for an entire like 4-day stretch, like to where they're doing more media than they've ever done in their lives.
More in 1 week. Would you agree they do more in 1
All
week?
season.
All
Yeah.
year?
All season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like we get Patrick Mahomes on Wednesdays for about 10 minutes or so. He's going to be
Regular
talking
season.
in the regular season. He is going to be talking on Monday for an hour, on Tuesday for either a half hour, and then it flips on Wednesday and Thursday. Like he will be talking every day. Andy Reid's the same way. And some of these guys haven't done a ton of media all year, and they will be at podiums for an hour or at tables for an hour to where media can approach them and getting asked questions that are much more bizarre than the ones that come from Kansas City media on the regular. So they will be asked by the three-peat all the time. They cannot ignore this because they will get asked about it frequently throughout the 4 days. I do think that Andy Reid's coaching style lends itself to this be less of a distraction than other teams. Not a non-distraction, just less than other teams would encounter. Soren, you were out there yesterday with me when Vahe Gregorian, another star columnist, asked Patrick Mahomes about Andy Reid's ability to not talk about this three-peat. And Mahomes said, I think today he's most worried about getting our cadence right at practice. And that's a really small example, but it does speak to Andy Reid is so into the details that he has the players so into the details. That's the best way that they can guard against this being a distraction, is by focusing on something else, making these little things really important to where that requires so much of your attention. You don't have much space left for something to like a three-peat, but they're going to get asked about it so much, like you can't ignore it. Like this will be the topic of this next week.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I like one thing I'll point out, one of the comments here, I think it was, basically, will the Eagles have more of a hard time with it? Like, right. Does the experience, okay, so three-peat's going to wear them out, Jeff, but does the experience of having been through it, how much does that help? There are many Eagles that were here 2 years ago. There are more Eagles that weren't, though. They have turned that roster over quite a bit. Credit to the organization and what they've done. Any chance that it's more of a distraction for them?
I don't think the three-peat angle is a distraction for them. I think the distraction for them is not getting caught up in, oh, we should have won 2 years ago, or we're better than this team. I saw Nick Sirianni make the comment after the game when they beat the Commanders, we've got unfinished business. Now, I think he probably was speaking more to, we've come this far, let's not let it stop here. But the first thing I thought was it could easily be taken as we're seeing the same team again that we saw 2 years ago, and we felt pretty good about our chances then. So let's go back and get this victory. I think for either team, I never think chasing history or getting revenge or all these things that people come up with end up winning you this game. I think what wins you the game is playing well, executing the things you've been doing all season long. And so for Philadelphia, that's really the bigger challenge, is not getting out of what they do. And you're right, they've got some younger guys, mainly on defense. I think it helps that they've got an older coaching staff now, or more experienced. I think Fangio is somebody who's been around for a long time on defense. That helps. Kellen Moore is a younger guy, but he's been obviously around this league for a little bit of time and been in some big situations in his own right. So I think it's going to help them that it's not like Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen and guys who are really young. I think that's probably good for them. But yeah, they're going to, trust me, Philadelphia fans, they're going to be a lot of distractions for them as well.
First of all, I always like Jesse always comes in just with a simple comment. Chiefs, all exclamation points. I do love that. David wants us to keep up the show. No plans to quit, David. So thank you for those kind of words. Jason, I think this one pertains. He says, Chiefs get a decent lead and Eagles will fall apart. If they fall behind significantly, 10 points, Eagles will impose their will running game, get the lead early, right? I think he's saying the Chiefs get behind, the Eagles are going to pound the rock. But if they get down, they'll implode. And that's my question to you, Sam, about could the implosion begin with, if I'm out there and I'm asking the Eagles, I'm asking them about, hey, you've had a lot of drama on the sidelines. You've had a lot of drama in the post-game press conferences. It doesn't seem to have affected you on this win streak. Is that a problem? And I wonder if they get that question a lot. And could that be what starts to plant the seed? Everyone seems to come to the conclusion that Jalen Hurts and Sirianni don't get along. Is there any chance that the distraction of the drama they've had this year ends up being a bigger deal and a bigger story, especially if Sirianni starts chirping and popping off? Then everybody on the team's got to answer questions about the coach and his sideways attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about how the Eagles operate to really know that. But I mean, I do know that the Chiefs have become experts at handling situations like that when they fall behind. And this still happened in last year's Super Bowl with Travis Kelce bumping into Andy Reid. Like, emotions are extraordinarily high in this game. I do think, the point that was made, and I can't remember whose comment you put up there, Jason, I think. I think it's an important point, and you heard me ask Patrick Mahomes about it yesterday, just getting off to better starts. There's a reason I asked him about that. In his 4 Super Bowl appearances, his passer rating in the first 3 quarters is 74 in 4 games. In the fourth quarter and overtime, it's over 100. And this is a team I think you can less afford to be trailing the entire second half because they run the ball more than any team in the league. And I think it's going to be tougher to catch up with them. And I realize I'm saying that, and they caught up to the Eagles 2 years ago in this game. I'm just saying, just because you've done it once doesn't mean it's an easy thing to do. This is a more difficult team to play from behind than it is, the Bills, for example, that still try and score every time. I just think it's going to be a challenge if you get down a couple touchdowns in the third quarter.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I do think that you don't want to see that ground and pound coming at you all day, right? Like that's one of the things. I think the Chiefs, and they listen, when have they gotten down this year? The Eagles are the best team that they faced. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll see if everybody agrees on that subject. First of all, I'll tell you, we agree that David Starnes Allstate Insurance has got you covered if you need anything when it comes to your insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk a little bit about where the Chiefs rank historically if they get the win, Jeff. Where would you put them all time amongst the great teams?
Oh, you'd have to. Well, getting a three-peat puts you into select company. I come at this 2 different ways.
Company.
Yeah, with no company. Yeah, but I come at this 2 different ways. One, to me, it's rarefied air because of the era you're doing in. The salary cap era, it's very hard to win championships. So that would put them in their own stratosphere. But I probably would say I'd probably put them third. Not just because I look at like those Steelers teams in the 70s, those Niners teams in the 80s, they were just so loaded with great players. So I'm always biased towards that as well. So if you took those teams and played the Chiefs with those squads, what would it look like? I think you'd have more money on the Steelers or the Niners of yesteryear. But I certainly feel like they would surpass the Patriots in that way. Because the Patriots, to me, even though we make them out to be a whole dynasty with Tom Brady and Belichick being there for all 6 of their wins, like it was really 2 separate dynasties, right? I mean, it was the first run was more about defense and running and a young Tom Brady being a game manager. And the second run was more about Tom Brady being who we remember at the end of his career. So I would give them certainly the best dynasty of the last 30 years, but I think the Niners and the Steelers had better teams.
I put the Patriots ahead because I do lump it as one because they made it in 7 and 11, right? I know the championships were.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
They
were undefeated, in 7. I mean,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
that is a feather in their cap as well. So I would still put the Patriots at number one just because Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were there together. The 49ers are a little trickier because the fifth of their run is Steve Young and George Seifert. Seifert transitioned in. He won the fourth one of their five in their run. And then Steve Young took out Joe Montana, replaced Joe Montana for the fifth one. So I put them above the Steelers. If they win, we're talking about if they win, they'd have the three-peat. They'd have 4 in 6 years, same thing the Steelers did, and they appeared in another one. So I'd put the Steelers in the rearview mirror. I think the only teams, 49ers and the Patriots.
But you're going just off wins, right? You're not going off the talent on the teams.
Well, your point is great. I think that's a totally different way of looking at it, and one that I didn't. Yes, I am just going off wins. I think that's a fair, not accusation, but a fair shaping of my comment. Yes. I am, because you are right. It was a different era. There was no free agency. They were able to stockpile incredible talent. Nobody could get to it, really, for the most part, until the 90s, right? So the Patriots had to deal with the salary cap era, but the Steelers didn't. So I think that's a great point. I mean, they quantity of Hall of Famers, those teams had more than the Chiefs. I mean, that's going to be the case. In some ways, I think that makes this accomplishment better, right? So if we were going to line up and play a tournament or measure the strength of the team compared to their era, I think the flip side would be like the Steelers' offensive line averaged 250 pounds. The Chiefs would destroy them. Like that's what other people, the modern athlete would be the flip side. Within their eras, I think the Chiefs have been more dominant than the Steelers. I think only the Patriots are ahead, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time debating because I don't really care. I think it's a fair statement, 49ers versus Chiefs, if they would win this one right now. I think they're kind of there, and above both of them is the Patriots. And you want to argue over which one's 6 inches ahead of the other between the Chiefs and 49ers? I would probably, and then I wear red and gold glasses, I'd probably lean to the Chiefs because of the three-peat would be my reason to lean to the Chiefs, and I would put them second. But I can understand an argument for the 49ers. Where do they go for you, Sam?
Well, I mean, I don't really dispute anything you guys said, but I mean, the Chiefs will have accomplished something that no team has ever accomplished. And it's not just the three-peat. It's the fact that they've won 4 in a 6-year stretch, the fact that they would have been to 5 in a 6-year stretch, and the fact that they, been to the AFC Championship 7 straight times. I mean, we've said this stat before, but I feel like it would be relevant for a discussion like this, which is like Patrick Mahomes has never lost. He's never been trailing at the end of regulation of an AFC Championship game. And so like the run that they're on there is incredible. And they have many items on that list that no other team could match. And Soren, I said this to you, and I'll go through it incredibly briefly here, but I did the math on the onset of when this three-peat started in 2022. And I calculated the odds of them making the playoffs and then beating every team that they beat in that playoffs, and did the same through 23 and did the same through 24. And when you total up the total shot of doing something like this from start in 2022 to finish next Sunday, it's a 1 in 1,231 shot to do what the Chiefs are trying to do. Now they're at better than, 1 in 2 shot. But this started as a real long shot to do this. And so in terms of difficulty, I think the Chiefs would be number 1. I understand Jeff's argument, though, that in terms of relative to your peers, nobody's going to stack the number of Hall of Famers that the Steelers had on that group. It can't be done anymore in the salary. I mean, the salary cap is designed to prevent something like that from happening, but it's also designed to prevent something like a three-peat from happening. And I just think in terms of degree of difficulty, I think I'd put the Chiefs first.
Okay. I think it's a fair assessment. Is the Eagles, Jeff, the toughest team that the Chiefs have faced all year?
Look, I think they're the most talented. When the postseason began, I thought Buffalo was a better team. If I was ranking the teams at the beginning of the postseason, I thought Buffalo, Philadelphia, Chiefs, Lions, and Ravens were the top 5 teams. And I thought all 5 of those teams could win a championship. The thing about the Eagles that impresses me is just their sheer roster. I mean, you look at literally every unit is better than the Chiefs except for coaching and quarterback. Like they've got a number of really talented players. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's become a sheer force of nature. He was not this player even when he signed with the Eagles. Nobody thought he was going to be this kind of player. And their defense has become a lot better. I think that they don't get a lot of discussion because Barkley and all the drama with the head coach and the quarterback, but they've got everything you want in the defense. They've got Pro Bowlers, all pros at every level. Jalen Carter is going to be a house. You saw how Jordan Phillips dealt with Mike Caliendo. I can imagine the Eagles lining Jalen Carter up over Mike Caliendo and having Nolan Smith over Joe Tooney almost the entire game. Nolan Smith, who runs a 4.3, 840 at the combine. And so there are issues there. Zach Bond's an all-pro. And then they got 3 cover corners and a ball hawk safety and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So everything that you want in a defense, they have. Now, the question is, can they get out of their own way and avoid the drama? Like you said, you just don't know what Nick Sirianni is going to do. A.J. Brown going to implode and melt down? Is the good Jalen Hurts showing up with a guy who fumbled the ball in the Super Bowl and Nick Bolton returned it, which was a pivotal play? So I don't know that. But, yeah, certainly in terms of talent, this is the best team they'll see all year.
Yeah.
There was one person that predicted this from Saquon Barkley. I think Soren had him as the NFL's offensive player of the year.
He did?
I think so, going into the year.
I guess so, the way he's smiling over there all smugly.
I did grab him on some fantasy teams too. About the only thing I did right in fantasy football this year.
Okay. One person predicted it.
I don't think this is the toughest team they played. I do think it's the toughest overall defense that they will have faced. You know, I mean, I think you look at how these teams rank offensively and defensively. The Bills and Eagles are sort of the inverse. They're both top 10 in both, but the Bills were really good offensively, and then the Eagles were really good defensively. I think playing the harder offense is a tougher challenge for the Chiefs. So I think the Chiefs have played their toughest challenge, but I mean, it's a minimal difference. And the Eagles are a really tough challenge for all the reasons that Jeff outlined. But the biggest by far in relation to the Chiefs is just that they cover extraordinarily well. You know, it's not just that they give up the fewest pass yards, which is, of course, a major part of this, but it's the fact that it's because their secondary is really good. It's not like they're just generating a tons of pressure and giving teams like less time to throw, and therefore their coverage looks better. It's their coverage is actually really good, which goes back to the fact that the reason the Eagles are here, and you mentioned the roster turnover, is because they draft extraordinarily well. Like they draft, you know, they're this team that doesn't do this. There's certain guys that once they start falling, it's like the house that's been on the market too long. Well, what's everyone else seen in this guy? The Eagles will just say, well, we trust our evaluation. We'll take him anyway. And a couple of those defensive linemen that Jeff mentioned fall into that category where they fell too far in the draft. They said, you guys don't want these guys, we'll take them. And then they need cornerbacks. They draft they had the top 2 rated rookie cornerbacks in the entire league this year. Like they fill out their roster incredibly well to where they don't have weaknesses on this roster. Like I think when you look at the reason that the Chiefs could win this game, you're pointing out the difference in quarterbacks. Like you can't point out the difference elsewhere that you'd say, well, the Chiefs definitely have the clear advantage here. Like you're picking the quarterback, which look is a sound reason to pick a football team to win.
A couple things. Noah John says kickers better for the Chiefs when it comes to with the Eagles, which special teams, Brad points out. So they like the special teams for the Chiefs in a comparison with it. Linebackers and DBs are even. Warm handoff. I just love that name. Not to mention
Even.
Mr. Proctober says the Eagles played 7, 4, and 6 seeds. Of course, they were impressive in the playoffs. So some people differing with the assessment there that the Eagles, and we'll get more into the matchups.
So what's the argument? The Eagles are not a great team just because they didn't play a tough schedule?
No, I think they would. I don't see anybody arguing that head coach and quarterback the Chiefs have an advantage. I think they're trying to find some other spots where the Chiefs have an advantage. Listen, as I look at it as a Chiefs fan, as I evaluate the Eagles, it scares me. I'm not going to lie. Like in my fandom hat, they're really, really good. There isn't a weakness. Right? Like there may be a place that the Chiefs are better, and you can argue about whatever position you want, but the Eagles don't have a weakness. Like I don't see a weakness there. So that in and of itself, their receivers are better than Buffalo's. I don't think Jalen Hurts, when he's at his best, I don't think he's much worse. If he's not even as good as Josh Allen. I mean, he was barreling towards an MVP last year. You know, he was very much in the MVP conversation until he got dinged up, or maybe it was 2 years ago. Before he got dinged up coming down the stretch. Jalen Hurts can play at an incredibly high level. Tight end, check. They got that. Best running back in football this year. Got that. Offensive line. Most people think it's the best offensive line in football. D-lines filled with talented players. Jeff's assessment of the Eagles is spot on. It's spot on. Again, if you want to argue some points, you like the Chiefs linebackers, against the Eagles. That's a good spot to talk. I like the Chiefs linebackers. I think part of it might be Chiefs fans just know the Chiefs linebackers better, because Eagles linebackers are really good
Yeah,
and
Zach
really
Tom's up for
diverse.
defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they scare me. The Eagles scare me. I think absolutely it's the best team that the Chiefs have faced this season. Will Xavier Worthy, Jeff, continue to be the Chiefs' top receiver versus Eagles? Does he need to be? Is he the best option? Is it a problem if somehow DeAndre Hopkins is leading this team in receptions?
Yeah, I think he needs to be. He needs to have an impact, and he's had an impact in the playoffs. Look, I think Christian Benford getting hurt against Buffalo was a factor in what he did in that game. They went after Kaiir Elam a lot, which was smart. Benford's one of the best cornerbacks in football. People thought he should have been in the Pro Bowl. Don't know why he was on that field. The way that concussion went down, that's a different conversation. But no, I think it'll be a lot tougher because the way they use Worthy, he's not. It's more scheme driven. Now he made a great catch, over Elam and Cole Bishop in that play. I won't take anything away from him in that regard. But I promise you that the Eagles will probably have the way it lays out when they're playing man coverage. They'll probably put Slay on Hopkins or Juju, whoever's out there, and then Quinyon Mitchell's probably going to be on Worthy. And then they'll probably put DeJean on whoever goes in the slot or Hollywood, whoever. But I think they're going to have Quinyon Mitchell on him because they know that they're leaning on him a lot in the postseason, and that to take him away would be a huge thing. So I think his production will be more like it was in the Houston game than it was in the Buffalo game.
Okay. What do you see for Xavier Worthy, Sam? And how important is it that he be productive?
Well, I mean, I see a difficult matchup for any Chiefs wide receiver because of the fact that the Eagles have 3 cornerbacks who can play. So, but, the Chiefs offense turnaround certainly coincides with Xavier Worthy's emergence late in the season. And it's for a specific reason. I mean, the Chiefs started emphasizing getting rid of the ball quickly. They started emphasizing not asking their tackles to protect because they couldn't. And so they went to a short passing game, and Xavier Worthy is the guy that's been the beneficiary of this. For all the talk about Xavier Worthy coming in and helping the deep passing game, he caught 3 deep passes all year. He only caught 6 passes beyond 10 yards past the line of scrimmage all year. He was a totally behind the line of scrimmage and short passing game receiver. Well, the Chiefs late in the season went to the behind the line of scrimmage and short passing game. And that's the reason that their offense improved. So a ton of this hinges on Xavier Worthy being productive. I mean, Jeff mentions Xavier Worthy's, game against Houston. Well, the Chiefs had, less than 250 yards of offense in that game. That's not a coincidence. So yeah, they need a guy like Xavier Worthy to be a consistent threat in the game.
That's interesting that Sam talks about the way they used him. What is look over the horizon? What do you see for Xavier Worthy long-term, Jeff? Is he a guy that's a complete receiver, or is he more of this dink and dunk short and they're still looking for a true number one? Or can he grow it? Maybe not to a number one, but can he grow to being a more complete wide receiver?
I think he's going to be, and I like him. I like what he does. I was talking to a scout when they drafted him, and I said, what do you think of Worthy? And this guy works the Texas region, the South region. He's going to the right team because they'll know how to use him. What drives me crazy, and I heard it, all week, is, Buffalo, they let Xavier Worthy go to the Chiefs. They screwed it up. It's he didn't fit what they do over there. Really, there's only a handful of teams that could probably use a guy like him in the way the Chiefs use him. And so I think his future is to be probably a better version of McCole Hardman. I don't see him being Deshaun Jackson. This league is not filled with many guys at his size, without the speed part of it, who are highly productive. If you're going to be his size, you need to be built like Steve Smith, like Tyreek Hill, to be able to do some of the dirty work type stuff. They've done a great job with him, but I don't see that. I see him being a better version of what he's been so far, which is kind of like what what they hope McCole Hardman could have been.
Yeah, I think Sam. Do you see more of a better version of McCole Hardman, or do you see a guy who's getting on towards? I don't want to say anybody's Tyreek Hill because of the physicality differences Jeff just pointed out, but can he get more towards that as the complete all around receiver?
Yeah, I mean, I think already this year he had a better year than McCole Hardman ever had for him, but I don't know that he's a long, long way away from his ceiling. Look, he needs to convert on more of these deep shots because they do still run him on the deep routes, even for all I mentioned about the fact that most of his production comes underneath. they still try and hit him deep, and they were unable to. Like, we can't forget the stretch of them throwing to him deep almost every game, and him and Patrick Mahomes just could not connect. It was like 5 out of 6 weeks that there was some ridiculous reason that a deep shot did not connect, where we're asking about it in the post-game press conference. Like, at some point, that has to become part of his game too. And that's what could take him to a next level. But I don't think that next level is a Tyreek Hill next level. I mean, what he ended up with, like 680 yards or something this year. I mean, I don't know that we're going to see him become a 1,000-yard receiver. You talk about a number one. Their number one's going to be Rashee Rice when he's on the field. We're not sure of his availability next year, but that will be their number one. I don't know that we're going to see Xavier Worthy become a 1,000-yard wide receiver, but like if he becomes an 800, 900-yard wide receiver, like this is a very valuable piece for the Chiefs. And what they like to do.
If he could be what Jameson Williams has become in Detroit, that would be, I think, a boon for the Chiefs. And Jameson Williams is about the same size as him. Had a rough couple years. You saw him turn on this year, but you watch Jameson Williams in college, and he was a beast. Xavier Worthy was not that kind of player, so it's more of a leap to get to that. But I think that could be his ceiling, Jameson Williams.
He was a 1,000-yard receiver at Texas. I mean, so he was productive. I'm in agreement with everything you guys say. I don't see Tyreek Hill. I don't see Steve Smith, but I'd see a lot more than he's, as Sam pointed out, he's already better than McCole Hardman. Listen, if you've been hurt in an accident, call our folks at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Besame Wellness for all your cannabis needs. With fast, easy, and discreet delivery, you can enjoy the same deals you enjoy in-store, but delivered to your home or office. Even same day. Restrictions may apply. Any questions? Let Besame's top-rated customer service team assist you. And this Chiefs season, don't miss a minute of the game with no delivery fees on game days. And when the home team wins, so do you. Use promo code three-peat and receive some extra free goodies with your next Besame order. Don't forget, you can still use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order for online delivery or at any of their 5 area Besame locations.
All right, let's talk about which Travis Kelce we're going to see. What do you expect, Sam? We're going to see the Travis Kelce that dominated the Houston Texans. We're going to see the Travis Kelce that was more of a blocker and a decoy in the last game.
I think there's a lot of reason to believe it's more the latter. That, having a game like he had against the Texans is going to be really tough against the Eagles. And those reasons are Philadelphia is the #1 ranked defense in covering the middle of the field. Travis Kelce does most of his damage in the middle of the field. They're also a top 3 defense this year in covering tight ends. We obviously know what position Travis Kelce plays. So, look, I think Jeff said this at the onset of the playoffs, and he's right about this, that when this game gets to crunch time, it's still going to be Patrick Mahomes' preference to go to Travis Kelce. But I think the Eagles are going to put a lot of their attention towards him, and they already cover the middle of the field well. Jeff mentioned their linebackers. If people want to compare and contrast the linebackers, regardless of where you rank them, there's a definite difference in their strengths, which is the Eagles linebackers cover well. If you're a huge Nick Bolton fan, and I think we all see tremendous value in Nick Bolton, I think he's the reason that, for example, Josh Allen had a really tough time with quarterback sneaks. As Nick Bolton is really strong, he gets a lot of leverage. That's a different style of linebacker than what the Eagles are bringing to the Chiefs, which is they cover well. And so their linebackers are going to be a tough matchup for Travis Kelce. I'm not saying he'll be a disappearing act in this game. I certainly think he's going to be a factor. But I think asking him to have, 100 yards when he only did that once in the entire regular season and then suddenly did it against the Texans in the playoffs, that's going to be tough to replicate because this defense makes that tough to replicate.
What are your expectations for Kelce, Jeff?
About the same. Again, Vic Fangio coached the Broncos for 3 years. He saw the Chiefs a lot, especially when they had Tyreek Hill and were really loaded as an offensive team. And so he's well aware of that psychological lift that comes from Mahomes hooking up with Travis Kelce. So, yeah, I certainly feel like they're going devote a lot of resources to him. And they have, as Sam said, they have the luxury to do that because when you have guys who can cover man-to-man, you can say, we'll take an extra linebacker and give him some more attention. We'll take a safety and give him more attention because we still have other guys who can help on the back end. And look, it's really the big part of this as it affects Kelsey is just that the Eagles don't blitz a lot. They rely on their front four to get home. And so if you're the Chiefs, you got to have a plan, as I said earlier, for Jalen Carter. And that probably means keeping someone else in to help with protection. So you're probably going to not have 5 guys out in pass routes anyway a lot. And so that's really going to be where the chess match is really going to be won is how do they determine how can we get guys into the pass patterns to give Patrick some opportunities to make plays, but also protect him as well. And so, I think it's going to be a lot harder to get Kelsey. He'll probably get 2 or 3 catches that impress you, but I don't think he's going to be he's not getting 100 yards in this game. I would be shocked if Vic Fangio let that happen.
I do think, sorry, Soren, I just wanted to it's a little bit off topic, but something that Jeff had mentioned, the fact the Eagles don't blitz a lot. I think the Chiefs have a slight advantage in that situation, having just faced a team that does not blitz a lot. Like they just prepped for the same situation. The Bills don't blitz a lot. The Eagles don't blitz a lot, as opposed to look at the Bills last week. And I think it's something we probably should have talked more about in the week leading up that I recognized afterwards, which is the Bills played 3 really different offenses in the playoffs. They played the Broncos, then they played the Ravens, and then they played the Chiefs, and none of those 3 offenses operate anywhere remotely close to each other. So therefore, they're starting from complete scratch when the week starts. The Chiefs have obviously an extra week, but I also think their offense is playing against a defense that tries to operate similarly, even if the Eagles have more talent on the back end to make it successful.
Travis Kelce had 6 for 81 and a touchdown against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Probably a better comparison would be what he did against the Dolphins, which Vic Fangio was running the defense for the Dolphins last year in that playoff game. He was 7 for 71, and it is at this time that we'll point out that Vic Fangio has not beaten Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So Vic Fangio is an incredibly accomplished defensive.
But he gave him some tough. But they gave him some tough games when he was younger in his career.
Absolutely. Everybody neach players, and the Broncos' days are not a fair measure compared to the weaponry he brings into this mix, right?
The Dolphins either really they were half the defense was hurt in that game.
Yeah. So he's got.
He helped the Eagles 2 years ago, right? Wasn't he like a special assistant just for Super Bowl week or something like that?
Hanging around and doing stuff. So he did have fingerprints.
Let's just put those 38 on him then.
DeAndre Hopkins. Will he ever be a contributor to this offense again, Jeff? We've really seen him kind of phased out as Xavier Worthy's gained more.
I go back to what Sam said when they traded for him, and he was very prescient. He's not the kind of receiver that Mahomes wants to throw the football to. And we've seen that play out. Yeah, he's had some moments, but this isn't just a playoff thing. He's had, 1 catch in the playoffs, 2 targets, something like that? He's had catches in the last 6 games. So this is like meaningful games, discounting the game he didn't play against Denver. And so, I don't really know where he fits. I think it's very telling that Juju was the one they were going to in the second half of that game. They needed a couple plays. And so I don't know if it's, look, he's never been a burner. But I just don't know how he's going to resurrect himself in this contest. And I don't think they've been sitting on him trying to wait to unleash him for the Super Bowl. I just think he's probably been a bad fit for a while. The lack of speed is catching up to him. And the way they're playing, guys got to get open fast. And if they're not getting open fast, they're not getting the football.
Yeah. What about DeAndre Hopkins from your standpoint? Jeff's right. He's only had 1 catch in the postseason, 1 for 11 yards on 2 targets against the Bills. He was targeted once, did not have a catch against the Texans. Going on back, he didn't play in the last game. 2 catches for 7 yards against the Steelers. You got to go back to the game against the Texans in the regular season, 4 for 37. But never, the biggest game he had was 4 for 90 against the Raiders this year. I agree with what Jeff said, Sam, that he's not the best fit. There were some comments coming out when he was available for big money, and they weren't playing when it was time to pay him. I think desperate times call for desperate actions, and that's why they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. Not that they don't like him, not that there isn't a role he can play, but I don't think there's a big role in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it play out the reason that it intrigued me, because he just doesn't, he doesn't play wide receiver the way the Chiefs want their receivers to play wide receiver, especially when what I already talked about at the top of the show, when they moved to the short passing game, when everything was quick. Like, he's not a guy who gets quick open. He's a guy that you just have to trust is going to make a contested catch, because he's usually going to have to make a contested catch. The most optimistic view for DeAndre Hopkins in these playoffs is that Buffalo had given up the most I think the second most yards after catch in the entire league this year. And so DeAndre Hopkins was dead last in yards after catch per reception in the entire NFL. So he was not a great guy to just suddenly install into your game plan. And Juju Smith-Schuster, for his age, for his injury history, has been really good after the catch this year. And so I could understand why they said this guy's a better fit for this particular game plan. He's going to play against the Bills. The Eagles are the inverse. They've allowed the fewest yards after catch per reception in the entire league this year. And so you do have to get a lot of your yardage in the air, and DeAndre Hopkins, that is his game. So if the Chiefs are playing, a week-to-week game plan, he fits more in this game plan than Juju Smith-Schuster would. But I don't know that that's the reason that the Chiefs have gone to Juju Smith-Schuster, as much as they've just looked at themselves and said, what fits our offense best? And that's how they've landed on Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, I think that's he was necessary. DeAndre Hopkins I'm talking about was necessary, but I don't know that he was necessarily going to ever be a star in this offense, right? And he's not the best version of DeAndre Hopkins either. Getting DeAndre Hopkins in his prime, so I don't think everybody should be stunned when he doesn't blow people away. Listen, when you need help with your insurance, David Starnes Allstate Insurance has you covered. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations: North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs facing this rushing attack of the Eagles. I saw a stat that the Chiefs have not given up a 100-yard rusher in the playoffs. I think maybe the entire Patrick Mahomes era, or maybe it's just since 2019 when they started winning their championships. However, they did, Jeff, give up 150 to the Bills. There may not have been a single 100-yard rusher, but the Bills were effective running the football when they did run it against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now you got Saquon Barkley, 2,000 yards on the ground in the regular season. Didn't play the final game, by the way. I'll remind folks, and 600-plus yards from Jalen Hurts. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. You can talk about what the Ravens did with their rushing attack with Lamar Jackson. It's probably apples to oranges who you want to pick being the better group. Obviously, Saquon is more explosive and creates a little different dynamic when it comes to defending him than Derrick Henry would have in the playoffs. Because I think the Chiefs are better built the way they are with the guys like Pennell and Nick Bolton, as Sam mentioned. They're just so physical. And Derrick Henry is really about being physical. Like, Saquon is in space and he can, run between the tackles, but he gets out in the open. It's amazing. Even the run he had last week against the Commanders, where he's spinning and he's just like, you got him there, you got an angle on him and it's gone. And so people talk about their offense and not being as explosive in the passing game with Hurts, but he is as explosive of a player as you've seen in the NFL this year. And so, I am curious to see how Spagnuolo comes up with a defense to deal with that, because when you add the quarterback to it and you add the offensive line, now you're talking about you're probably going to have maybe about 8 guys around the line of scrimmage on a regular basis to be able to deal with all that, which means the guys on the back end got to deal with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and that group. So numbers mean as much about what Saquon Barkley brings to it, because Jalen Hurts, that's probably helped him out as much as anything this season.
One of the things we talk about all the time, Sam, with the secondary is how well they tackle. I mean, the Chiefs are a very good tackling team. So, some of the moves, I agree with Jeff. I mean, Saquon Barkley, he is this year's Christian McCaffrey, and probably better than Christian McCaffrey was last year. But Christian McCaffrey was a guy they were talking about MVP last year as well, and the Chiefs had to face him. And Christian, you're not going to completely shut out Saquon Barkley, just like you didn't shut out Christian McCaffrey. But this defense should be one of the more well-equipped to try to limit the big plays because they do tackle well? Or do you think Saquon Barkley is going to have a giant day?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to come down to the secondary guys. I mean, like Shamari Connor is going to have to be involved in the running game, because Jeff's right. I mean, Next Gen Stats put out something after the last game that he had over 100 yards just rushing outside the tackles last week against the Commanders. Like, that's where he gets a lot of his yardage. It's a different beast than the Chiefs have faced this year. But the other difference to me is that the Eagles aren't going to go away from the run. You guys already know what I thought about the Bills' game plan in the fourth quarter. They should not have gone away from the run and put the game in Josh Allen's hands.
You're a little fuzzy on that in our last podcast.
Did he say that? Did he really say that?
In the last 3.5 minutes, if the Bills had stuck with the run, I think we might have had a different outcome. The Eagles won't do that. Like, they're not going to say, okay, now there's 3.5 minutes left in the game, Jalen Hurts go win the game. They're going to say the run has gotten us here, and therefore we're going to stick with it. They run the ball 56% of the plays. There's only 3 teams in the NFL that are above 50, and they're at 56. Like, they lead the league by a pretty distinct margin. And so that's going to be like, look, I mean, it doesn't take a professional or an expert analysis to say it's the key to the game is what the Chiefs can do against the Eagles running game. But I think the point that Jeff made is the in the weeds part of it, is that it isn't like a normal running game. I mean, Saquon Barkley, I think, has 7 carries of 60+ yards this year. I mean, he's a home run hitter. He's the toughest guy to tackle in space. And I know people think of Derrick Henry barreling down on you. I don't want to meet that guy in the open field. Saquon Barkley is more elusive. He's really tough in open space. So you've got to tackle one-on-one. And you're right, Stren. The Chiefs have been good at that this year. They haven't faced Saquon Barkley this year.
Saquon's the all-around game because he's 230 pounds, but he also runs, he's been clocked at over 20 miles per hour numerous times this year. He's got top-end speed if he gets loose, but this is not some scat back out there either. I mean, he delivers a blow. You see some of the videos of him squatting, and, him and Jalen Hurts has got to be a fun day in the weight room. With the way they go at it. I mean, it's got to make everybody, everyone always loves it when the little guys can actually lift, not that these guys are small guys. Like if you see them in a bar, they are not small guys, and they have put a lot of time into making sure that they're physical, strong players, but both of them are put together. And so you got to stop him a couple of times. One, the elusiveness, the speed to go the distance, and power. He's not going down. It's not touch football. With Saquon Barkley.
Let me just add some stats to what you're talking about, Soren, because and look, I mean, we all grade Pro Football Focus as we want to grade it, and these are grades, they're not stats, so these are subjective opinions. But as far as I mean, Leo Chanel is a top 10 graded tackler among just linebackers, and then Jaden Hicks is 9th among defensive backs. Brian Cook's 15th. Justin Reed's 27th, Trent McDuffie's 33, and there are 199 guys exactly, 200 guys exactly that fit into that category. And you've got 4 of the top 33 with the Chiefs. Like, they do tackle really well for defensive back, but like I said, they haven't played Saquon Barkley yet.
Yeah. And also you look at some of the, you really watch the film, and I was watching, I think, Sal Palantonio's show a couple of weeks or last week before the championship games. He had some nice cut-ups of Barkley's big runs. And you can see Jalen Hurts does a masterful job of understanding the numbers advantages and how to get them into the right play that allows him to go to the side. Like, Spagnuolo loves to have players flying around right before the snap, and you'll see, safeties up in the line of scrimmage that go flying back to the secondary, getting a too deep look, or corners moving. They've done it with Drew Tranquils. You start doing that stuff, and you got a position against this guy, he's going to the house. And so I'll be curious to see how much of that they're doing to try to mystify the Eagles, because being in the right spot will be so crucial to them defending Saquon Barkley in this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How about Jaylen Watson? How does he change this defense, Sam?
Well, I thought he would change it more against the Bills than I think the Eagles. And look, the Eagles have really good wide receivers, but we just talked about the running game for a reason. Like, if the Eagles are going to win this game, it's not going to be because Jalen Hurts drops back 35 times. It's going to be because their running game is dominant. So he's definitely a key factor because look, we all talk about the weak link defense. Teams had found the weak link in the Chiefs defense, and Jaylen Watson has not been that. Even since he's come back, I think he's given up 17 total yards in 2 games. Now, he's played part-time as they've tried to work him back. I anticipate he'll have more of a full-time role. So I picked him as the best addition they had among the guys coming back last week. I think you could make an argument for somebody different this week based on matchup.
Yeah. How about you, Jaylen Watson?
Yeah, I think it's been.
Is this his time to shine?
I think it's been negligible what he's done. Like, Sam's right. I even sent a text to Sam during the game of, a lot of Najee Johnson out here. Like, where's Jaylen Watson in this game? And so to me, it said, 1, I think probably he is on some kind of a snap count. And 2, I think that they played a lot of coverages that really didn't put outside of McDuffie their DBs in situations where they had to make a lot of plays. Like, he wasn't really in harm's way, nor was Najee Johnson. And I think in the Buffalo game, they decided we're not going to allow Josh Allen to pick our second cornerback apart. This game's going to be different because they're probably going to have to be playing a lot more man coverage in some situations to be able to deal with the run game. And they're going to have to be able to deal with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and whoever else is out there. I mean, the Eagles don't have a complex passing game. And so they don't do some things that, other more sophisticated offenses do. But the guys who do it are pretty high level. And you saw that the last time they played the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I think both A.J. Brown had a long touchdown pass and Devontae Smith had a long pass that set up the game-tying score at the end of the game. And so for the Eagles, it's a good sign that Hurts threw the ball more. But Sam's right. They want to run the ball like crazy in this game. And so I think
ask Cowboy fans if Kellen Moore runs a complex offense, and they'll be like, "No, 4 button hooks, no."
Yep. Maybe ask Saints fans pretty soon. I mean, we talk about distractions. I mean, that's something that I think is probably as relevant this week as anything. I mean, their offensive coordinator is preparing to try and become a head coach right now.
And people, I've heard that comment like, "Oh, it's the same thing. History's repeating itself." The Eagles lost both coordinators. They were interviewing. If anyone thinks that the Eagles were distracted last year, then the Chiefs are really in trouble because only half their coordinators are interviewing, and they needed a field goal as time expired to beat the Eagles last time. So I'm not hanging my hat on the fact that Kellen Moore interviewing in New Orleans is going to be.
I don't think that's the difference in the game. I will.
No, I know you're not saying that. But I'm saying I've seen some other people like, look, here it is. Say like, well, you didn't exactly kick the Eagles' ass from one side of the field because the 2 coordinators were looking at house listings in their new cities. I mean.
Wasn't it? Gannon did blame the game on himself and a bad game plan, though, right? In that Super Bowl. I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's a huge thing. I don't think it's nothing either.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know that'll be the difference. We'll find out. We got a couple more Red, Gold, and Bold podcasts to discuss it. Of course, Jeff Chadiha and Sam McDowell will be in New Orleans. And so when we talk next, they will be in the Big Easy. Of course, we're always brought to you by our friends at David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Give him and his team a call, 816-781-7331 for all your insurance needs. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Start booking those seal coatings. Pretty soon it's going to be warm again. They'll be doing that. No commissions. In-house crews. You can find them online at GannAsphalt.com. That's GannAsphalt.com. Best of Me Wellness. Use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order. And for Northland Injury Law, call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-HURT or text HURT, to 22222 to meet with the good folks at Northland Injury Law. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.